Put your red shirt on and a brown coat too. Everybody's joining the crew. We got just one ring that we rule them all. Hope you remember your thoughts. Get your Uru feathers and your needler guns. A sonic screwdriver or a sword plus one. Use Valerian steel if it will get you to come. To the big tank. To the big tank. The Rocky Mountain big tank.
Hi, I'm Guy,
Hi, I'm Troy.
Hi, I'm Alex.
and this is Geek Tank.
It was going to be a pilot, but got turned into a movie-sized podcast.
You could probably
Yup.
guess what we're going to talk about today.
I'm out.
He's like, we're done. We're done here.
Yep.
I just realized I didn't have one of my lights on,
Ah,
so I had to go turn it on. I don't think it actually picks up on the camera very much, but it helps with my ambiance.
Right.
that's important.
Yeah.
Hi, Brent. So, I guess we should stay spoilery free.
Yeah. Right. We're totally going to talk about Highlander.
I'm not really sure. I'm not enough of a Trekkie to know if there's anything that could really be spoiled in it, because there was no big twists or turns that would be. It's like you could spoil Citizen Kane. You could spoil the Sixth Sense stuff. I don't think there's anything in this that you could really. I guess there was one thing that most of us watching it didn't see coming early on in the show, but
Yeah, there was one twist at the very end, but it was still kind of a
it's So yeah, Section 31.
yeah.
I'll say my one little thing, and then I'll let you go into it, Guy. I'm not mad at it. I'm just disappointed.
I'm not mad at you. I'm just disappointed.
Okay, Alex. I mean, I'm Guy. Sorry.
Yeah, leave it to Alex now.
Yeah.
Well,
Alex hasn't seen it.
I have not watched it. However, there's a YouTuber who does a lot, among other things, a lot of Star Trek videos, and I watched his take on it. And he's generally very thoughtful. Sometimes I don't agree with what he has to say, either in the Trek universe or the more political commentary or even political comedy he does. He even does some like Star Trek kind of skits. He had a really good one about time travel recently. But Steve Shives is what he goes by. And so the takeaway I took from it was something like, yeah, I can totally see that, which I'll say for after most of it. He did a no spoiler thing, and he did say also there was, as you say, it felt like a pilot in all its, and oftentimes sometimes we've been spoiled by really good pilots. Like, you watch the pilot to like, Mad Men or something. It's like, wow, this show is blowing me away. Holy crap. And we sometimes forget that oftentimes pilots are really uneven. They haven't gotten the writing locked in on some of the characters. A lot of the actors are still kind of getting used to their parts and their own on-screen chemistry with each other, and so oftentimes pilots are a little bit uneven and such. So that's what it seems like, what you guys were saying earlier, and what Mr. Shives had to say. But yeah, so take it away, Guy.
So Section 31 was originally a pilot. It was greenlit all the way back 100 zillion years ago, before when the dinosaurs first walked the earth.
Back before Roddenberry was born.
Right.
Figure that out.
And part of the problem was that we had a writer's strike and we had all kinds of stuff going on, and it caused a great deal of trouble in this. In the interim, during the time that it was on hiatus, Michelle Yeoh became a big celebrity, which is fine. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that at all.
Holy crap! How long ago was it greenlit?
It was greenlit. It was greenlit all the way back just
You
at
should-
the end of Discovery
You
or
should specify.
Discovery's 4th season.
You should
So I'm
specify.
talking about
You should
everything
specify a big.
everywhere.
You
Everything
should
everywhere.
specify a
all
big
at once.
celebrity. Yeah, she was a big celebrity long before Star Trek. Well, not long before Star Trek, but she had been a big celebrity, just not in America.
Yeah, she'd become an A-lister is really what had happened.
Oh,
Here
okay.
in America, she became an A-lister,
Gotcha. Okay.
which changed the dynamic of what they could do with her, because she all of a sudden was very expensive. She went from expensive to very expensive. So they changed the concept of what Section 31 was going to be from its pilot form to just a movie. They were just going to have a movie. They were going to put the money together for that, and then they made the movie. The problem is that it clearly got confused along the way, because my personal feeling is it wasn't bad. I mean, it's not the movie that will not be named. So I mean, like, I will watch it again. It's not a problem. It's not top on my list anymore of things that, or not. It was never on the top of my list. I guess I shouldn't say that. But it's not on the top of the list of things that I'll watch when I'm feeling like I need to watch Star Trek, which happens quite a bit in my life. It seems confusing. It looks like the script kind of wanders a lot. They didn't know what they were trying to head for. And the editing was a little weird. I felt like the editing was my biggest problem with it. It seemed weirdly edited, which is strange. The director is a known director from Discovery and did some really good episodes of Discovery. So it's a weird thing that this one didn't come out well. Like, I chalk this one up to sometimes it just doesn't all work the way it's supposed to. Not that there's any one bad thing in there or anything like that.
I wouldn't be surprised if it was one of these cases where he got director's credit, but maybe he only did 30-40% of it, and he had his seconds in command do most of it or something. And
right.
I don't know. I could just say from a non-Star Trek, because I approached it from a non-Star Trek point of view. I'm like, how is this as just a film? And it did not hold up for me as just a film. It's the fight scenes that, Michelle Yeoh could fight.
Yeah.
But they didn't let her do her thing. They did the Batman camera work of cutting too much. Which, okay, they didn't bill it as a fighting series, so okay, fine. But it just kind of, I guess you could chalk it up to editing, like you said, sort of meandered. There were things that sort of pulled me out of the fourth wall, or broke the fourth wall for me, where it's like, and Guy said they did establish that there's a device that takes people out of phase, and they can go through walls, but they don't explain why they don't fall through the floor.
Right.
But Guy said, well, they did that in an episode, so it all makes sense. I'm like, okay, cool. However, if the floor is solid, but the walls aren't, that should make a bar where people make drinks solid or not solid. So you can go through the bar, because people are going through tables and everything but the floor. But then there's a MacGuffin that is phasing, and they soccer punt it off of a wall through another wall. And it's like, what made that wall special that it couldn't go through that one?
It hit the stud.
It did.
Hit the stud.
Yeah. And by the way, for those of you who are wondering, we're talking about the next phase, which is TNG season 5, episode 24.
Yeah. I'm just saying, yeah, I don't really know. I'm just saying, yeah. But
you have faith that I know.
Knowing the little bit I know about Section 31, I fell into the trap that I fell into with The Fifth Element. The Fifth Element, though, on second viewing, I really liked. I really don't think I'm going to second view Section 31, but even if I did, I don't think it's going to fix my problems. First time I saw The Fifth Element, I had no idea what I was going into, except it had Bruce Willis and was directed and written by Luc Besson, who did The Professional. So I thought I was going to get The Professional with Bruce Willis in space. That is not what The Fifth Element was. So I went in expecting a serious, hardcore action sci-fi thing. Didn't get that. Got more of a comedy thing. So I thought Section 31 was going to be more serious. and Michelle Yao. So I had these things in my brain, but it is not serious at all. The writing is very whimsical. It goes for an Ocean 11 type feel without reaching Ocean 11's level, which is saying a lot because Ocean's 11's not that great. It's okay. But I felt like it wanted to be Firefly, but didn't know what made Firefly great.
Yeah. Humor is, as Savick says, humor, a difficult concept. It is not logical.
I,
Go ahead, Alex.
Okay. So one thing that Mr. Shives had brought up that I was like, that's because I didn't think it was going to be, like I said, I haven't watched it. But my impression of it was like, here's the kind of Federation shadow, shadow ops CIA type stuff. And he said that they never had them try to answer those hard questions, or even present the hard questions. Like there wasn't a lot of difficult moral choice in it, which I'm like, that's kind of weird. I mean, that can be. I think you'd want that to be your bread and butter for this, considering you haven't had. I'm not a Trekkie, but my impression is that that hasn't really happened a lot in Star Trek since like DS9.
Right.
And so I was like, well, I mean, that'd be really cool to go back to like, here's the spies, here's the stuff going on, here's like they do these terrible things so that way the rest of the Federation doesn't have to. And when you said the Ocean's 11 stuff, I did hear that it's like, oh yeah, we're gonna have our heist, and we're gonna do the heist thing, and we're gonna do the heist plan, and of course in a heist movie, when you do that, you're doing it so that way the audience is on board, the characters are on board, everyone knows how it's supposed to go, so that way especially the audience knows when things go sideways, and then how the complications happen that our protagonists have to overcome and adapt, and such. And then like there was a guy who just came in and was like, that plan's dumb, do this plan instead. Okay. And it's like and am I wrong on that? Or was that kind of how it went? It's like, we're going to set up this heist and then we're going to scrap the plan and go with this other guy's plan, just, because.
I think part of the problem because you're not wrong. Part of the problem is DS9 has done that heist thing in the Pale Moonlight, which was
and those hard choices.
Season 6, episode 19 of
like,
DS9.
I haven't seen a lot of DS9, but I've seen a chunk of it. I was like, wow, this show's cool.
Yeah.
So,
and I feel like that was the one where they did have to we do the dirty stuff so that everybody makes it through the next day, and that I feel like is probably what Section 31 should have been. Was that, you know what I mean? Like, it shouldn't have been, I mean, it could still be an action movie. It could still be full of Michelle Yeoh kicking people, and that would still work. But it seems like it just they had a MacGuffin that I was like, well, I mean, you never mentioned that MacGuffin before, and they have to stop the MacGuffin, which they never mentioned before, when there was ample other things that they brought up with Giorgio that they could have used. There are many other things that they brought up with that character that they easily could have used as a MacGuffin, and they instead invented a newer one and a meaner one. And so, I don't know. I mean, that's my feeling on this one too. But I think the biggest sin that they committed, if you will, was that they made it more about the team being weird and strange.
Guardians of the Galaxy.
Yeah, but not just Guardians of the Galaxy, but also internally.
I thought it was interesting. I thought it was interesting how two of the main characters in the team are written in a way that you could swap actors without blinking an eye. One's a shapeshifter, and the other is a little thingy that pilots an android. So all I have to do is swap out the android. Different actor.
Yeah.
And it's like, I did some job security for you. Like,
yeah.
Oh. Let's do a fun little experiment here. We got like 14 minutes before our station identification. Let's say they came to me and said, "Here's a bucket of money. We want you to make a Section 31 movie." First thing I'd do is I'd go to Guy, because my Star Trek knowledge is like fits in a cup. I need an ocean of knowledge, which is Guy. So
Wow.
I would say, "Hey Guy, what is the toughest choice they've ever put out in any Star Trek episode? The toughest choice where you're like, I don't see a clear answer here because both things are horrible solutions."
You end up with Tuvix.
What's Tuvix?
Which was a Voyager episode, which has still been and has been a long-standing, although that was kind of resolved in Lower Decks in a
So what was
hysterical way.
What was the tough challenge? What was the tough choice?
They had a transporter accident with Neelix and Tuvok, and they ended up making a character named Tuvix, who was a mix of the two characters. And the decision was, if you return them to Neelix and Tuvok, you are killing Tuvix, who didn't want to be killed. And so this became one of those moral dilemmas that Janeway had to think through. And of course, her response was to just kill Tuvix, which is still one of the more entertaining things that makes, most Trekkies go, man, Janeway's brutal.
Obviously,
her result was
more
just
Steven
beam him out.
I mean, come on.
But I mean, honestly, like Pale Moonlight is a good example of an episode of Star Trek which has a hard decision in it. For those of you guys who are not familiar, Pale Moonlight takes place in the middle of the Dominion War. The problem is that the Federation is starting to lose to the Dominion. And what they really need to do is bring the Romulans into the war onto the side of the Federation. And they need to do this in a way that makes it look like the Romulans decided to do it for their own good. So they come up with this plan to convince a senator that bad things are happening and it's the Dominion's fault because the Romulans are playing a neutral part in the war. And I don't want to really necessarily spoil how it goes down.
That sounds like some CIA shit to me.
That's a brutally, and the way it goes down is hard.
So running with that right there, a very similar thing could have been done in the whole movie is about them hiring Georgina to basically run a hit, and this team has to go in and take out a family and senator or whatever, making it look like it was some other race so they could trigger the war. And I would set it up in such a way that the big twist is you are revealed at the end. Here's what would have happened had they not done this horrible thing and how much more horrible it is. So that way you're like, why am I watching all these villains doing villain stuff? Oh, wow. So that's what this is about. Section 31 is about people doing horrible things because there's an even more horrible thing that's going to happen if they don't.
Right. Even Joan's like, that was a traumatic episode. You're not wrong, Joan. I feel
like Section 31 should have been a traumatic episode after her, it should have been tough.
Yeah.
And instead of comedy. I mean, seriously, they're never going to release another comedy as good as Lower Decks, right?
No.
So why bother? Why play in that ballpark?
Yeah, that's, and I could see, so the Star Trek has always had a small amount of humor that has always been in there. There's always been this point. And I think what usually happens is you get somebody who really loved the banter between McCoy and Spock, or really loved the childish innocence of Data, or loved Dax's romances with people who had transparent skulls and things like that, which were all like funny little anecdotes that they added in to make it real, because we all have little things that are funny that go on in our lives. And they take it, and of course you think about episodes like The Trouble with Tribbles or A Piece of the Action, where we had bits of Star Trek that was funny. The premise was silly.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
they ran with it. And the whole episode is these straight men effectively trying desperately to make it through to the end of this silly scenario. Of
But you don't
trivial
run that. You
shit.
don't run that as the pilot.
Yeah,
And that's the problem, is that they take it and think that that means that the characters have to be silly. And the problem is with Star Trek, you almost, it's one of those things. It's like MASH. We've had this discussion before about MASH and the MASH law, which is you never make fun of the war in MASH. You know, MASH is always about the doctors being bizarre and never about the war being bizarre. It can be about weird generals, it can be about weird commanders and things like that, but it can never be about the war itself. And Star Trek, you can't do that. Section 31 is a dark secret thing that nobody knows about, that does the dirty work when you have to do the dirty work. That's the whole point.
Yeah. You
And they made
sprinkle
fun of it.
comedy in to make the drama pop.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Oh,
that would have been cool.
Jeremy Pita says hello.
Hello, Jeremy.
And then hey Troy, can you give me a link to the podcast in the private chat? I'm going to post it over to the VGR Discord.
Oh yeah. Let me.
So
For the Facebook one. Location?
I don't care. Whatever.
Okay.
And we're all over the place.
All of them. I don't really. No one cares.
But yeah. And I think that's the biggest. I think that's it. That's the part that's kind of bothering me, is that Section 31 is the smart, dark side of the Federation that does the things that just have to be done sometimes. You don't want to talk about it. Nobody wants to talk about it because Star Trek is full of positive energy, and the Federation are the good guys. But
TNG is pro-Federation propaganda.
Right? But I like Brent's statement, which was, going to the mirror universe and start changing it to the prime universe. That would have been an interesting thing. Part of what they were trying to explore in the movie was that Georgiou is not the same person that she was at the beginning of Discovery. When we brought her over in Discovery, she was ruthless and evil. I mean, like, genuinely evil. And the whole evolution of her character through the end of Discovery, before she came back through the gate, was that she had become an actual person. Like, she had stopped becoming a tyrant. And the thing that bugs me is that Section 31 hinted at it. They kept coming back and trying to say that, and they kept falling short.
Well, the whole reason Section 31 wanted her is because of who she was and how ruthless she was. And that's what I wanted to see. I wanted to see her recruitment. I wanted to see her early missions. I wanted to see something serious.
Yeah.
The thing about humor, because I've been studying humor my whole life, is
that's funny.
It's typically people who try to be funny will come across as trying, and that destroys it being funny.
Mm-hmm.
You've got to find that balance between recognizing the steps you need to take and the words you need to say and the timing to make it natural and not feel forced or reaching for it. And that's the humor in Firefly works great. The humor in Section 31 didn't work for me. And again, this is subjective. Someone out there loves Section 31 because someone out there loves episode 1.
So, sure. And there are a number of fans who, and even though I'm kind of knocking on it, it's not bad. It's just not what I wanted, I guess. But that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. It wasn't bad, Yeah,
like I said, I'm not mad at it. I'm just disappointed.
So one of the things that Mr. Shives said, and it was something I instantly was like, oh yeah, that's probably going to happen. I hope it doesn't either. Was that since it is not doing well, as far as how you say the fandom, lay people viewing it, he's really worried, or he voiced concern about the suits who control the purse strings and are of course generally risk averse,
Hey, Matt.
to go, okay, well, this didn't work. Time to go back to nostalgia bait and fan service. To which I'm like, ugh, that's not a great way to go. Instead of stretching in new directions, just going with the, well, this fan service worked before. Let's keep on throwing out more fan service and nostalgia bait and all that.
And Lower Decks thrives in nostalgia bait and fan service.
Except
But
that,
again,
as you have said, and other people I know have said, it is good enough to stand on its own to people who are not Trek fans.
Right. And that's the thing. Like, there's a line there, just like what Troy was saying, is that, you can pull that, but you got to be very careful. That's a dangerous line to walk. So
Yeah, it's funny.
I'm
I was gonna say, one of my sons was talking about how it's tricky because he's a big fan of the Sonic franchise, and talks about how sometimes they'll throw stuff in newer Sonic things to kind of reference older stuff, but they do it really poorly and in a bad way. Which, of course, he's talking Greek to me because I'm not a fan enough to pick up anything. But I use Lower Decks as an example of that. I said Lower Decks is pretty good about making it that if you know nothing about Star Trek, it can still be a funny show. For me, it sometimes gets really close and slightly over that line of the, oh, I see that's a joke, but it's an inside joke, and I'm left out because I haven't watched every episode of Star Trek. But I get when I see that, I'm like, oh, I'm sure the people who saw that, they're just rolling on the floor laughing because they get it, whatever the inside joke was. But it's they do a pretty good job at finding that line and trying to get as close to it as possible, even though they occasionally step over it a little bit. But yeah, Lower Decks is one of those that if you like adult humor and animated stuff, like I wouldn't necessarily say Rick and Morty because that's more extreme, but if you like that kind of stuff, sci-fi comedy, Lower Decks I'd recommend to somebody who doesn't even know anything about Star Trek.
Yeah, it's pretty solid on its own. And I think that the rules that they set up for their humor were that any super deep Star Trek commentary had to either been said in one of those quick blurts of just technobabble that the characters speak in, but can't be part of the plot. I think that's, or has to be background in the background.
Yeah.
So many things I would see in the background of a Lower Decks episode, and I'm like, I know exactly what they're referring to. That's hysterical. It's very funny, and nobody else got it, and that's fine. But it wasn't part of the plot, and the plot was always funny on its own. It would have worked if it was, a House MD episode, sort of thing, as in like that plot piece has to be able to be divorceable from Star Trek.
Yeah. Like nostalgia done poorly. I'm always reminded of the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy movie that came out a while back. And as a fan of Hitchhikers, the books, and also the radio script, and also the TV show, I was like watching it. It's like, here's Marvin the paranoid android walking through frame really slowly. Nothing else to focus on, just this for like 10 seconds. I'm like, boo, boo, boo.
See, now you're making a Princess Bride reference, though.
Oh yes,
Yeah.
I had to clean the taste of
Right.
H2G2 the film out of my mouth. Ugh.
Yeah. Oh, I can help clean that taste out.
Hot.
Yes, so can I. By saying the Geek Tank is sponsored by Kieran Games, Geekway Homes, The Massage Wizard, and
Your mom.
Well, cool. I'm glad you're here, Joan. I wore my Castlevania T-shirt.
And you weren't
I
here.
said I was going to do so, and you weren't here because you have a life or something.
That's right.
Weird.
But I do have a treat. I ordered up. I found this online. I play Magic the Gathering.
Nerd.
And I make theme decks. I build for fun and I play to win. And I made a Dracula deck. And the playmat I had for it just wasn't working out for me. So I found like a Castlevania playmat. But it turns out it's not really a playmat. It's like a desk keyboard mat. And it is beautiful.
It's a tablecloth.
Yet enormous. It is
That is huge.
over 2.5 times the size of a standard playmat. And yeah, it's beautiful. I love it. Yeah, and so it's funny. I actually built that deck to be an arch enemy deck, which is a format of 3v1. And so the extra giant mat is thematic. When I showed it to my wife, she goes, "So that's your flex mat, huh?" oh, it's coming, Coop. Coming. Y'all can all roll up on me, and I will crush you all. It does demand respect.
You need to get
It's baller.
Need to get one of our people with that actually has some 3D printing skills, unlike me, to print you a card case that looks like a coffin.
That'd be sweet.
There you go.
Right, case, a playmat case. Yeah. Here's a normal size playmat. Hi, we didn't get money from Good Luck High Five or Magic the Amateuring, as they used to be known, for this, but it's a nice little standard playmat. Look at this. It just engulfs it. It's like, no. It's like your pathetically small playmat will not stand. Oh, ships in the night.
Yeah, that must have been Thursday night because I'm there doing Crocono training for the tournament that's coming up at the end of next month.
Oh yeah.
So,
but yeah, no, that'd be really sweet to do like a coffin or something, or I don't know. But yeah, this mat is awesome. And like I played a couple games with Dracula, and then I switched to a different deck to the person I was playing, and I pull out the playmat for that deck, and I was like, oh, all my stuff doesn't fit on the playmat. Oh, so tiny. What's up with that? Like I said, with Arch Enemy, it's 3v1. It's a super fun format if you've never played it.
And you can download the Arch Enemy app for free, which allows you to have the cards and use them. It's just a little bit tricky because some cards are in play until something happens.
Right.
And so you have to kind of make a note of that because you're going to be moving on past that.
Right. Yeah, my problem is that I do have they made the original Arch Enemy set years and years ago. And I got one of each of those cards. It is ostensibly a constructed thing. It's these schemes you get, and by the rules you can have a 20 card scheme deck with up to 2 of any scheme in it, and it's just too broken. I'm gonna put 2 of them that gives me an extra turn, and 2 of them that fishes out land, and 2 of them that makes me steal shit, and 2 of them that it's like it's really easy to just be like, I'm just gonna get all busto. Yeah, it's like they also made also several years ago at this point, this is during like War of the Spark era of Magic, that they made Arch Enemy Nicol Bolas. There's a bunch of Bolas themed cards. So it's hard to find they're giant cards like the Planescape cards, and so it's hard to find sleeves that'll fit those cards.
Yeah, they one time they had sleeves that size with the official Magic the Gathering card back on them, and I bought enough for that time for the Arch Enemy cards I had,
right?
Not realizing they were going to go out of print and never ever made again,
right?
So I can't expand it any further than that with those sleeves. So
yeah, and cards I collect. I mean, I did I was. Guy and I got into Magic back in the day. I got in right after Arabian Nights and right before Legends, and then I wound up playing Magic really pretty hardcore for a while, and then I got out of it for a while, and I got back into it, and then I got into the arena stuff, and actually 2 Decembers ago I got out, not out of Magic. I still play, and I would still buy singles or do proxies and stuff. But when WotC/Hasbro fired a ton of people right before Christmas, I was like, you know what? Y'all don't need to get my money ever again.
I believe this was Christmas 2023 too, wasn't it?
Christmas of 2023.
Yeah.
And I'm like, fuck y'all. Before that though, I did wind up buying even some Secret Lair stuff. Of course, the Secret Lair stuff is just bonkers now. They do like Seems like they do like 2 or 3 secret layers a month.
I heard there's a SpongeBob secret layers coming out.
Yep. So the few secret layers I have the Black is Magic. Sorry, I got sleeves on them, so it's all black coated characters, or
Mhm.
black, or like, like there's a Soul Ring, which is beautiful. Artwork that they did for like Black History Month, like maybe like the first or second year they did secret layers. I got the set of secret layers, which is all like Sumie artwork, which is beautiful stuff. I got them because they're gorgeous.
Yeah, those are pretty.
This is legally distinct from Lone Wolf. Just want you to know that. And then, because I'm me, they also put out a secret layer of Dracula themed basic lands: swamp, plains, mountain, island, and forest. It's probably my favorite one. Dracula on the carriage going up the mountain. Beautiful. And then they did some rebranded cards for Dracula, like Hunger of the Ancient One instead of Exquisite Blood and stuff like that. Super cool. Yeah, Dracula's tomb is not Ancient Tomb for some reason. What the fuck, guys? Phyrexian tomb, sacrifice a creature, get 2 black mana. But I'm like, come on, Ancient fucking tomb.
Mm-hmm.
But then I guess there would have been too much value in the secret layer, which is a different discussion. But yeah, like they do have a bunch of they did a bunch of Dracula the novel, Bram Stoker novel, alternate arts and characters and stuff, and like I actually want to get those cards and probably put them into I don't know about a binder, honestly. I might actually get like there's a group of people, I forget their names, and I'm sorry, I can go look it up because I've got one of their frames up in my bedroom where they have display frames that do conventions. And they do they can put a piece of art in a slipcover and put it in, and it's a really great way to just showcase your art and swap it out and stuff. And so they actually do that. They actually make those for TCG cards. So I might actually have like buy a bunch of those and have them hanging up on a wall like all the different Dracula cards and be like, yeah.
So that's kind of stuff they really should have, instead of, I know it would make less money for them, but for when they released the Innistrad set, should have slipped in some Dracula themed cards in there.
Yeah. Well, I don't know about in the new Innistrad. They're doing Innistrad remastered, but like the most recent Innistrad set from like a year and a half ago or something, those are the ones with the Dracula cards, like not the secret lair ones, because obviously you need to spend extra for that. But they're pack pulls.
Ah.
And it's like cool art and stuff too. I was like, yeah, I'm here for it.
I've got a couple of unopened boxes of Crimson Vow, since the vampire stuff is the stuff I was into. We should talk about our first decks we've done, because vampire deck was my first deck, and that was the day when I had 4 Singir vampires, and that was all the vampires that were made.
That's all the vampires they had.
All the vampires they had.
That was it.
Not until you got to Ice Age or maybe even Alliances.
Bats. There were bats.
Yep.
And so I had, and wolves, because I had to stretch to make it work. And then they came out with Homelands with Baron Singir, who's a horrible card.
He's terrible.
But he's a vampire, so I had to put him in the deck.
Right.
And then they came up with the Singir sisters, or witches. There were witches. They weren't vampires, but they had the word Singir in them, so I stuck them in the deck. But yeah, I really wanted a vampire deck, but they had so few vampires. Now there's just too many.
Yeah, there's so many vampires. It was one of the most supported tribes, or sorry, one of the groups, and it's like, it's crazy. And like even with the new Innistrad remastered, of course, there's tons of vampires being reprinted. Like in the years ago, the Edgar Markov Commander deck. Edgar Markov is like an $80 card. It's crazy. Of course, that card is crazy busted.
It's no Baron Singir.
No, Baron Singir is awful. I'm really surprised, considering like they still do throwaway cards. I don't know if they can throw away, but like cards that aren't necessarily super powerful, cards that they'll find at home in EDH Commander, or cards that are just flavor wins. I'm surprised. Like I could have swore it might have been just somebody's audit though, but I could have swore that they made at some point a better Baron Sangir. But maybe not. Maybe that was just my deranged imagination.
Yeah, I mean, they already had like the
Yes,
Lord of Atlantis.
Sengir, the Dark Baron.
Is it official?
Yeah, it's for real. It's in one of the commander decks. It's 4/4 generic. I mean, let me pull it up.
I'm on it.
4/4 flying. Whenever another creature dies, put 2+1/+1 counters on Sengir, the Dark Baron. Okay, so it's a Sengir vampire with an automatic Blade of the Blood Chief. Whenever another player loses the game, you gain life equal to that player's life total as the turn began. And it has partners. You can have 2 commanders if both have partner. So they made a Sengir that's not super shitty.
I just need to look up the original to compare it to it.
Oh, it's terrible.
And I know I remember
It says,
the cost.
so it's 8 mana for a 5/5 flyer. Whenever a creature is put into the graveyard, the same turn Baron Sengir damaged it, played +2/+2 counter on Baron Sengir. So that's the super Sengir vampire ability. And then tap to regenerate target vampire. How's that make any goddamn sense? I kind of liked it, at least in Homelands with Sengir, like you had like Grandma Sengir and Ishan's Shade, this paladin he corrupted. I mean, it was a cool story there. Man, those cards are terrible.
Yeah. I just wanted a vampire version of Lord of Atlantis or Goblin King. Just
right.
They could have just.
They've got him.
Yeah.
Now.
I see. I don't know if you guys remember stupid stuff like I do. Like, I remember you had a Wolfpack deck.
Yes.
It was a good, solid deck.
Yeah, it was a 3-color deck. I had to stretch for that too because back in the day they had like no wolves.
Timberwolves.
And the elven archers are the wolves' friends. Yes.
Someone's got to feed them their kibbles and bits.
No, my Wolfpack deck now has got more wolves in it.
How many cards were in Big Black?
I have forgotten.
I mean, rough because it was one of the 5.
Thousands.
It's one of the 5 slotted blocks.
Yeah,
yeah,
it's huge. And in fact, I got you can't read it, but right here I've got another. I got up here my Magic the deck building projects, and right there is Big Black. Big Black. Then the new version of Big Black will be Singleton, and will be Australian Highlander rules compliant, wherein it's so an Australian Highlander you have 100 card deck, or sorry, you have a certain number of points you can have. So you can have like I'm not sure if anything's actually banned, but they like things that are super powerful have a much higher point total. I think you might have something like 5 points or 10 points. It's been a minute since I've looked up the rules, but you can for every 100 cards in your deck, you get to have another pool of points. So Big Black, and instead of being like one of every black card, it's gonna be bangers. It's gonna be bangers because there's enough. There's a deep enough card pool. I can have a 500, 700 card deck, have it be compliant with Australian Highlander rules, and still be like, yeah, let's go. So I just love the randomness of it.
So I see 2 different ones. One holds 3,950 cards, and the other holds 5,000 cards. But they look similar, so it's hard for me to tell.
Yeah, we'll just say it was probably the smaller one because back in the day I don't think they had the super big boxes.
But yeah, I remembered I'd gotten some pretty awesome black skeleton card. I can't remember what it was, but it didn't really fit any of the stuff I had, and I knew Big Black. It was one of the cards you were looking for Big Black. So I was like, dude, put this in there. I just love the concept of this is all the black cards ever made.
Yeah, he may not be watching the chat. We'll see.
That's my deck.
I'm not watching the chat. Sorry, I'm scrolling.
Oh, let's see.
You should help them help.
I don't know
who being dressed.
I
know who that is, but
cool. I got a signed Scheherazade because I love the folios.
So Bob was I remember. So you're talking. You said Scheherazade. I have to tell a story about it. I have to. So we were playing Magic over at Bob's house in his basement, right? His parents and all that upstairs. And I get there late. And people are like, "Oh, we've only played a couple," and they're doing like this huge group games, like it's just a free for all, which of course is going to take fucking forever. And I'm like, no, I'll hang out, I'll wait till people get knocked out, maybe play with them, So I started playing Super Street Fighter 2 Turbo on the Super Nintendo. And I'm playing, I was getting my Fei Long on, getting my combos in and stuff. And then I hear from behind me, our dear departed friend, Mr. Porter, and I hear from behind me, double fork Scheherazade. And Bob goes, I'm out. Packs up his cards, comes over and plays Street Fighter with me all night. All fucking night. They were just sitting there in hell. Scheherazade hell. Hilarity. Utterly hilarious. Yeah, and the most fun I ever had with Big Blackout among strangers was that I know we talked about the neutral zone, and they had the anything goes, no ban list, no restrictions tournament. And B-Dan did the perfect thing of like, I'm going to play test this deck. Oh, whenever I'm at the neutral zone, ooh, I'm going to tweak it and do stuff. And he made a lightning bolt deck instead, and came in and just won.
Because everybody thought
hilarious.
He was going to play the deck that he was playtesting leading up to that.
Yep, perfect.
So
switcheroo.
Yeah, they all meta drafted they built decks against that deck.
Yep. And I brought Big Black, and I'm like, let's play. People are like, what the fuck? And I'm like, let's do it. Or maybe that was no. Big Black was the big deck tournament. That was a tournament of
and everybody else
250 card decks.
And everybody did 250 minimum.
And I'm like, no, here's my 4,000 card deck. Let's dance. And people were like, how the fuck do you do this? And I'm like, I'm adaptable.
I just had an idea for a tournament idea, because I like to come up with crazy ones for NDK. What if for every 100 cards you have in your deck, you get 10 life, starting at 0? So if you don't have 100, you have 0 life. So for every 100 cards, you get 10 life. So then if you want your full 20, you got to bring 200 cards. But if somebody brings 1,000 cards, that's how much life they get.
Yeah, I like it. Hilarity.
Hilarity will ensue.
But now if you got to bring an extra,
you still have the 4-card max?
Oh, for that one, yeah, probably.
Yeah. I mean,
so that makes it. If you want lots of life, you're gonna have to be doing like.
There's 2 or 3 cards out there that says there's no 4-card limit on it.
Yeah.
So you could just make a deck out of all those guys.
Yeah, you could just do and honestly, I'm already metagaming this. Sorry. One of those cards is Shadowborn Apostle, which if I'm not mistaken, says something like sacrifice 6 Shadowborn Apostles and tutor up a big ass demon, any demon you want out of your deck or something. Yeah.
2 hours later, I found it finally.
I'll play a 10,000 card deck.
I might have to have a no tutor rule.
No tutors.
No tutors.
Including land tutors. That would be brutal. So many people would be like, oh God. It was so funny. I was playing Magic on Friday with this friend of mine who's pretty new to the game. He's been playing for just over a year. And I'm doing my thing. And I'm like, okay, demonic tutor. Yeah, here we go. Land for turn. And he looks at me and I go, dude, when you've played Magic as long as I have, anyone who's played Magic as long as I have knows the most often tutored card you go for is land, is mana.
Mm-hmm. Which makes some sense, because the number of times that I've gotten into a game, drawn 7 cards and gone, well, I guess I'm not even going to do a land drop on the first try,
Right. Yeah, sorry for scrolling down on the Twitch chat. Yeah, an undead dragon deck. There's a few undead dragons. Or if you can expand it to be just like Dragon Reanimator, because the first version of my dragon deck that you've seen in action was actually a reanimation deck, which was honestly, as much as I like winning games, that won way too much. It was unfair for most of the play groups I'm a part of. But yeah, no, there's some good dragons out there, especially some undead ones. And
because
yes, the card that basically makes your life total is it's an OG card named Lich.
Oh, Yeah, that one. I found a different one. I think this is the one Joan was talking
Oh,
about.
okay.
That guy.
Okay.
Count the number.
Oh, okay. Interesting.
Mm.
Yeah, Lich basically says like anytime you would gain life, draw cards. Anytime you'd lose life, mill cards, discard or mill.
Mhm.
It was a good time. If Lich leaves the game for any reason, you lose.
That's from a
They
commander symbol, I think.
They actually made, yeah, it is. I know. Wait, no, is that might be? Is that shards? Alara? It might be Alara.
Okay.
Um. Yeah. Yeah.
The problem with that is constructed deck. Not everybody's bringing constructed decks to an anime convention.
Mhm.
So that's why I was trying
Right.
to make most of my tournaments. You don't have to even have anything. You just show up
Right.
and
You do the sealed. You
just
do a
sealed and that,
draft.
yeah.
Yeah. Or we provide the decks because you've just got a bunch of battle box decks built up.
Mhm.
A battle box is a bunch of decks that are constructed to be played against each other in similar power levels.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I love yeah, so I mean I've got so I had Big Black back in the day because when I first played Magic, a good friend of mine gave me one of those revised starter decks, and those things come with 2 rares, and one of my rares is the Lord of the Pit, and thus by my treading the path of Black Mana was sealed forevermore. And I did actually make a deck called Little Black, where it was a 60 card deck. It still is. It's been updated a few times, especially when I got back into Magic, I don't know, like 12, 13 years ago. And I was thought to myself, I was like, what is Black really good at? This is way back in the day. Black is really good at killing creatures and destroying land and making people discard stuff and drawing cards and fast mana. So I made a deck that was 60 cards. That was that. Sinkholes and terrors and hypnotic specters and hymns to Turok
Oublié.
and oublié. And yeah, so now I actually updated it, and like, I mean, it's just bonkers how expensive cards are, because like if you look at that card's deck list, I mean, the version that we play, us three here on the show, and I like to call it kitchen table, kitchen sink, like vintage legal kitchen table. We don't go for like turn 0 combos or anything. We proxy cards all the time, but we're there to just try to like have a good time and try to figure stuff out. Like when I play Magic, it's always a puzzle. How can I win? How can I maximize my chances of winning? But I also like sometimes I do some goofy stuff. Like I'm not a Star Trek fan, but I have a commander deck that's modeled on the Borg, and it's slow and grindy and fun. And sometimes it just wins out of nowhere because the Borg. But yeah, no, it's like
Somewhere out there's a hardcore Magic fan and hardcore Star Trek fan that made a Borg cube.
right, totally. But yeah, no, so it's like I do that, and and it's like I said, just the price of cards is bonkers. Like I've been, I got into Magic early enough that I could sometimes buy packs, but of course back in those days the packs were plastic, and like you could actually like look and see what the uncommons and rares were. So that was always a crapshoot if the people you were buying from were scrupulous or not. But I mean, I could buy and trade for real good, really cool cards without much trouble. So like I have like my little black deck is all beta swamps, and each beta swamp is for like $30 each now or something. I've got a beta Soul Ring in it. That's like a $500 card. It's like, what are you fucking kidding me?
Back in my day, we could afford our hobbies.
Yeah. Back in my day, we didn't have to try to get into Warhammer 40K to get rid of all our money.
We shuffled our cards on the concrete with no sleeves.
Yep. Cheaper than cocaine.
Uphill, both ways, in the snow.
In the snow.
Yeah. And,
damage your dual land, just go trade for another.
Yeah. Yeah. And like, yeah, discard. I loved it, making people discard stuff. That's my favorite. That's one of my favorite plays to ever do. I see somebody holding on to a couple cards, and I'm like,
I discard them.
You know what? I bet you have a counter spell in there. How about you discard the 3 cards in your hand, or you can counter the spell. Yes, I've got lots of untapped mana. Pick one. Pick one. That was always fun too, making decks that made people make uncomfortable choices.
There's a deck idea, the hard choice.
Yeah. Yeah. The
I feel
hard
like
way.
there were like lots of weird little things that I would do to defend against the tricks you would play. Like you mentioned that, and I was like, that's right. That's why I always carried like a land in my hand all the time. It was because of you and your pick one. Okay, discard the land.
Right. Hey, but you know, you like I had to like wait till I could get it because I didn't know.
Yeah.
Could be
Oh
bluffing.
yeah.
Could be bluffing. Yeah, that's what I was trying to impress upon this friend of mine that I've been trying to teach some of the finer points of Magic to. Is that it's a game of hidden information. You know, don't give away information until you have to.
Mm-hmm.
And uncomfortable choices together. And I was thinking, yeah, I think Rakdos would be the color combination, black red, and it'd be named like the hard way. Just like take your pick.
Yeah, and I think that may be part of the reason why at some point I kind of was like, I don't know. Because I don't mind that it's all about hidden information, but then again, it's not really kind of like, you know, a game that you just sit around and chat and play anymore, because it's got so many. You weren't paying attention because you were too busy talking to Alex about, you know, last night's Star Trek episode, and now he's killing you, Lotsley, because you weren't paying attention.
And even worse, like in a group game, you're like, I must pay attention to everything going on, at least a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, I get that, and it can take up a lot of mental energy.
So there's a card that I've never really used in a deck that I've toyed with the idea called Revelation. One green mana enchant world.
Classic.
Everybody plays with their hands face up because you're
Yep.
talking about the hidden information. This is one of those where it's like, all right, who has counter spells?
Yep. Oh, there's another spell that makes everybody play with the top card of their library revealed.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
It's some interesting stuff.
That's it. That's its own kind of fun.
Yep. There's no secrets.
Yeah. And like with Coop and some of the other people from the VGR crew, we haven't played a lot together. I mean, they've been playing together for a little while, but they haven't like had me in there. So it was pretty funny. We get into a group game, and I'm looking around. I'm like, oh, you got defenders, and you don't, and you don't, and I don't like. I'm more scared of your commander than their commander. So here I come. Here come some attackers. Like, what are you doing attacking me for? It's like the way someone's got to win, guys. And I'm looking at this as I might have to get rid of 120 points of life between the three of you by myself. So I'm going to start early. It's like, it's nothing personal, but someone's got to win this thing, and I'm going to try.
Right?
What? We're not all here for a group hug.
There are group hug decks, of course.
It's camp friendly.
I was thinking about making a group hug deck. I actually I've been reorganizing my cards, and as Troy said, if you looked inside the boxes, you could tell that they're more organized. But I had a bunch more projects, and one of the projects was a group hug deck that was painful. It's like, oh no, everybody gets to do really cool stuff and make their decks work and get hurt for it.
Mm-hmm.
So, was that the Everyone's a Black Mage?
Yeah. Yeah, like I said, I build for fun and I play to win. So everyone's a black mage.
My favorite deck I've made that would not really work that often was the deck I called Math is Fun.
I remember that deck.
It worked off of 3 enchantments, and if you didn't get all 3, it really didn't work, and it was so slow. But one enchantment said that any damage done was doubled. Another enchantment said that anytime a creature came into play, it took 2 damage. And another one said that anytime a creature took damage, its owner took damage. So if I had one of each out, you'd play a creature, the creature would take 2, it would double to 4, then you take 4, and it doubles to 8. And then when you start getting multiples of them out, And the nastiest it ever became is a bunch of people had creatures out, and I was able to get them out, and then earthquake for like 1. And so for every creature hit, all that damage, it just.
Oh, it's hilarious. I love it.
But yeah, it was really fun building that deck, and even though it doesn't win that often, it's the concept is I still find really fun with it.
Hilarity.
Yep.
I can't remember too many of your. You had a creepy crawler deck, guy? Am I remembering that, or is that somebody
Yep.
else?
Yeah, I had a creepy crawly deck, and it was
Yeah, like snakes.
it was all based around
scorpions.
poison counters.
Yep.
Yeah, I remember that.
That's right, poison. Back in the day, before poison was ridiculous.
Poison's still ridiculous.
No, I mean that's what I'm saying. Before it was ridiculous, because now with infect, and
Yeah.
with the stuff that for each point of damage it does is a poison.
Yeah.
As opposed to just you take
Poison
10 damage and 1 poison.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
Poison's
back
fun,
then
though.
it was actually pretty hard to get 10 poison, as I recall.
Mhm.
It was
'Cause
like difficult.
most poison
Now it's
critters, most poison critters were squishy.
Yeah. So I just had a whole
Hi,
bunch
Bob.
of things.
All right, good night, Bob.
Yeah. Oh yeah, earthquake rules. Yeah, that reminds me. Like I had the deck I called Hug Me. It was all omni damage spells, hurricane and earthquake and inferno and forks. It's like and fast mana. I'm like, and cyclone was in there. It's like, come get some.
Natural
like-
disaster deck.
Right?
It
It's
was
like,
pretty brutal.
it's like
Yeah.
I'm gonna blow us up.
Well, we are past our 10 o'clock time. I don't.
We are.
Are you doing night shows again, guy? Or are you still?
No, I'm still doing
homework.
homework, which is
All right.
actually what I'm going to end up having to do after we get off of this, because I've
Yep.
got still 3 papers to read before tomorrow's class.
Yeah. Hey, sitting right next to my computer, by the way, since we're talking magic.
Ooh.
Guy and Mariah gave me this as a Christmas gift a long time.
Aw.
Long. Whenever Zendikar was the deck,
Zendikar, yeah.
was the packages of the day. That's back
Mhm.
when I got that. I find it fun to
Night,
keep
Coop.
some packs unopened.
Yeah, it's fun.
For that special occasion. Whatever.
Right.
All right. Well, we will see everybody next Monday, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
I will see you guys all, I guess. Yeah. I mean, we'll be back next Monday, and all shall be good.
Yep. Can't wait to
No, I
flex
do.
my mad at y'all.
Well, unfortunately, though, that is all the time that we have for this evening. We'll see you all next week. And until then, I've been Guy.
I've been Troy. Thanks, everybody, for coming.
And I've been Alex.
And this is Geek Tank.